Perugia, Latin Perugia, is the capital city of the region of Umbria in central Italy, crossed by the river Tiber. The city is also the capital of the province of Perugia. Perugia is located about 164 kilometers north of Rome, and 148 kilometers southeast of Florence. It covers a high hilltop and part of the valleys around the area. The region of Umbria is bordered by Tuscany, Lazio and Marche. The history of Perugia goes back to the Etruscan period. Perugia was one of the main Etruscan cities. The city is also known as the university's town, with the University of Perugia founded in 1308, the University for Foreigners, and some smaller colleges such the Academy of Fine Arts, Pietro Vannucci, Public Athenaeum founded on 1573, the Perugia University Institute of Linguistic Mediation for Translators and Interpreters, the Music Conservatory of Perugia, founded on 1788, and others institutes. There are annual festivals and events. The Euro Chocolate Festival, the Umbria Jazz Festival, and the International Journalism Festival. Perugia is a well-known cultural and artistic center of Italy. The famous painter Pietro Vannucci, nicknamed Perugino, was a native of Città della Pieve near Perugia. He decorated the local Sala del Cambio with a beautiful series of frescoes. 8 of his pictures can also be admired in the National Gallery of Umbria. Perugino was the teacher of Raphael, the great Renaissance artist who produced 5 paintings in Perugia and 1 fresco. Another famous painter, Pinturicchio, lived in Perugia. Galeazzo Alessi is the most famous architect from Perugia. The city symbol is the griffin, which can be seen in the form of plaques and statues on buildings around the city. History. Perugia was an Umbrian settlement but first appears in written history as Perusia, one of the 12 confederate cities of Etruria. It was first mentioned in Q. Fabius Pictor's account, utilized by Livy, of the expedition carried out against the Etruscan League by Fabius Maximus Rullinus in 310 or 309 BC. At that time a 30-year inductie was agreed upon. However, in 295 Perugia took part in the Third Samnite War and was reduced, with Volsini and Arretium, to seek for peace in the following year. In 216 and 205 BC it assisted Rome in the Second Punic War, but afterwards it is not mentioned until 4140 BC, when Lucius Antonius took refuge there, and was reduced by Octavian after a long siege, and its senators sent to their death. A number of lead bullets used by slingers have been found in and around the city. The city was burnt, we are told, with the exception of the temples of Vulcan and Juno. The massive Etruscan terrace walls, naturally, can hardly have suffered at all, and the town, with the territory for a mile round, was allowed to be occupied by whoever chose. It must have been rebuilt almost at once, for several bases for statues exist. Inscribed Augusto Sacr Perusia Restituta, but it did not become a colonia until 251-253 AD, when it was resettled as Colonia Vibia Augusta Perusia, under the Emperor C. Vibius Trebonianus Gallus. It is hardly mentioned except by the geographers until it was the only city in Umbria to resist Totila, who captured it and laid the city waste in 547, after a long siege, apparently after the city's Byzantine garrison evacuated. Negotiations with the besieging forces fell to the city's bishop, Herculanus, as representative of the townspeople. Totila is said to have ordered the bishop to be flayed and beheaded. Saint Herculanus later became the city's patron saint. In the Lombard period Perugia is spoken of as one of the principal cities of Tuscia. In the 9th century, with the consent of Charlemagne and Louis the Pious, It passed under the popes, but by the 11th century its commune was asserting itself, and for many centuries the city continued to maintain an independent life, warring against many of the neighboring lands and cities, Foligno, Assisi, Spoleto, Todi, Siena, Arezzo etc. In 1186 Henry VI, Rex Romanorum and future emperor, granted diplomatic recognition to the consular government of the city, afterward Pope Innocent III, whose major aim was to give state dignity to the dominions having been constituting the patrimony of St. Peter, acknowledged the validity of the imperial statement and recognized the established civic practices as having the force of law. On various occasions the popes found asylum from the tumults of Rome within its walls, and it was the meeting place of 5 conclaves, including those that elected Honorius III, Clement IV, Celestine V, and Clement V. The papal presence was characterized by a pacificatory rule between the internal rivalries, but Perugia had no mind simply to subserve the papal interests and never accepted papal sovereignty. The city used to exercise a jurisdiction over the members of the clergy. Moreover, in 1282 Perugia was excommunicated due to a new military offensive against the Ghibellines regardless of a papal prohibition. In the other hand, side by side with the 13th century bronze griffin of Perugia above the door of the Palazzo dei Priori stands, as a Guelphic emblem, the lion, and Perugia remained loyal for the most part to the Guelph party in the struggles of Guelphs and Ghibellines. However, this dominant tendency was rather an anti-Germanic and Italian political strategy. The Angevin presence in Italy appeared to offer a counterpoise to papal powers. In 1319 Perugia declared the Angevin Saint Louis of Toulouse protector of the city's sovereignty and of the palazzo of its priors, and set to his figure among the other patron saints above the rich doorway of the Palazzo dei Priori. Midway through the 14th century Bartholus of Sassoferrato, who was a renowned jurist, asserted that Perugia was dependent upon neither imperial nor papal support. In 1347, at the time of Rienzi's unfortunate enterprise in reviving the Roman Republic, Perugia sent 10 ambassadors to pay him honor, and when papal legates sought to coerce it by foreign soldiers, or to exact contributions, they met with vigorous resistance, which broke into open warfare with Pope Urban V in 1369. In 1370 the noble party reached an agreement signing the Treaty of Bologna, and Perugia was forced to accept a papal legate. However, the Vicar General of the Papal States, Gerard Dupuy, abbot of Marmother and nephew of Gregory IX, was expelled by a popular uprising in 1375, and his fortification of Portasol was razed to the ground. Civic peace was constantly disturbed in the 14th century by struggles between the party representing the people and the nobles. After the assassination in 1398 of Bayer de Michelati, who had made himself Lord of Perugia, the city became a pawn in the Italian wars, passing to Gian Galeazzo Visconti, to Pope Boniface IX, and to Ladislaus of Naples before it settled into a period of sound governance under the signoria of the Condottiero Braccio da Montone, who reached a concordance with the papacy. Following mutual atrocities of the Oddi and the Baglioni families, power was at last concentrated in the Baglioni, who, though they had no legal position, defied all other authority, though their bloody internal squabbles culminated in a massacre, the 14th of July 1500. Gianpaolo Baglioni was lured to Rome in 1520 and beheaded by Leo X, and in 1540 Rodolfo, who had slain a papal legate, was defeated by Pier Luigi Farnese, and the city, captured and plundered by his soldiery, was deprived of its privileges. A citadel known as the Rocca Parolina, after the name of Pope Paul III, was built, to designs of Antonio da San Gallo the Younger, ad coercendam Perusam or in Audatium. In 1797, the city was conquered by French troops. On 4 February 1798, the Tiberina Republic was formed, with Perugia as capital, and the French tricolour as flag. In 1799, the Tiberina Republic merged to the Roman Republic. In 1832, 1838 and 1854, Perugia was hit by earthquakes. Following the collapse of the Roman Republic of 1848–49, when the Rocca was in part demolished, it was seized in May 1849 by the Austrians. In June 1859 the inhabitants rebelled against the temporal authority of the Pope and established a provisional government. But the insurrection was quashed bloodily by Pius IX's troops. In September 1860 the city was united finally, along with the rest of Umbria, as part of the Kingdom of Italy. During World War II the city suffered only some damage and was liberated by the British 8th Army on 20 June 1944. Economy. Perugia has become famous for chocolate, mostly because of a single firm, Perugina, whose baccy are widely exported. Perugian chocolate is very popular in Italy. The company's plant located in San Sisto is the largest of Nestlé's 9 sites in Italy. According to the Nestlé USA official website today, baccy is the most famous chocolate brand in Italy. The city hosts a chocolate festival every October. Geography. Perugia is the capital city of the region of Umbria. Cities distances from Perugia: Assisi 19 km, Siena 102 km, Florence 145 km, Rome 164 km. Climate. Even though Perugia is located in the central part of Italy, the city experiences a humid subtropical climate similar to much of northern Italy. Climate in this area has mild differences between highs and lows, and there is adequate rainfall year-round. Demographics. In 2007, there were 163,287 people residing in Perugia, located in the province of Perugia, Umbria, of whom 47.7% were male and 52.3% were female. Minors totaled 16.41% of the population compared to pensioners who number 21.51%. This compares with the Italian average of 18.06% and 19.94%. The average age of Perugia residents is 44 compared to the Italian average of 42. In the 5 years between 2002 and 2007, the population of Perugia grew by 7.86%, while Italy as a whole grew by 3.85%. As of 2006, 90.84% of the population was Italian. The largest immigrant group came from other European countries, 3.93%, the Americas, 2.01%, and North African, 1.3%. The majority of inhabitants are Roman Catholic. Education. Perugia today hosts 2 main universities, the ancient University of degli Studi and the Foreigners' University. Stranieri serves as an Italian language and culture school for students from all over the world. Other educational institutions are the Perugia Fine Arts Academy, Pietro Vannucci, the Perugia Music Conservatory for the study of classical music, and the Rai Public Broadcasting School of Radio Television Journalism. The city is also host to the Umbra Institute, an accredited university program for American students studying abroad. The Università dei Sapori, a national center for vocational education and training in food, is located in the city as well. Frazioni. The comune includes the frazioni of Bagnaia, Bosco, Capanna, Casa del Diavolo, Castel del Piano, Cenerenta, Civitella Benazzone, Civitella Dana, Collestrada, Columberto I, Cordigliano, Columbella, Farneta, Ferro di Cavallo, Fontignano, Fraticiola Selvatica, La Bruna, La Sinella, Lacunano, Lidano, Majana di Montitezio, Montebagnolo, Montecornio, Montelaguardia, Montepetriola, Mugnano, Olmo, Parles Car, Pianello, Piccione, Pila. Pilonico Materno, Pont della Pietra, Poggio del Corta, Pont Felcino, Pont Patali, Pont Rio, Pont San Giovanni, Pont Vallisepi, Prepo, Pretola, Ramazzanola Pulch, Rancolfo, Ripa, Santi Andrea del Fratta, Sant'Gidio, Sant'Ni, San Fortunato della Collina, San Giovanni del Pantano, Santi Andrea d'Agliano, Santa Lucia, San Marco, Santa Maria Rossa, San Martino dei Colli, San Martino in Campo, San Martino in Cole, San Sisto, Solfagnano, Villa Pitignano. Other localities are Boneggio, Canata, Col della Trinita, Montepolito, Monteville, Pieve di Campo, Montemalban, Montemorcino, Collestrada, in the territory of the suburb of Pont San Giovanni, saw a battle between the inhabitants of Perugia and Assisi in 1202. Main sites: churches, Cathedral of S. Lorenzo, San Pietro, late 16th century church and abbey, San Domenico, Basilica Church of the Dominican Order. Building began in 1394 and finished in 1458. Before 1234, this site housed markets and a horse fair. The exterior design attributed to Giovanni Pisano, while its interior redecorated in Baroque fashion by Carlo Maderno. The massive belfry was partially cut around the mid-16th century. The interior hosts the splendid tomb of Pope Benedict XI and a wooden choir from the Renaissance period. Sant'Angelo, also called San Michele Arcangelo, small Paleo-Christian church from the 5th–6th centuries. 16 antique columns frame circular layout recalling the Roman church of Santo Stefano Rotondo. Sant'Antonio da Padova, San Bernardino, church with facade by Agostino di Duccio. San Ercolano, 14th century church that resembles a polygonal tower. This church once had 2 floors. Its upper floor was demolished when the Rocca Parolina was built. Baroque interior decorations commissioned from 1607. The main altar has a sarcophagus found in 1609. Santa Giuliana, church and monastery founded by heir of a female monastery in 1253. In its later years, the church gained a reputation for dissoluteness. Later, the Napoleonic forces turned the church into a granary. Now, the church is a military hospital. The church, with a single nave, bears only traces of 13th-century frescoes, which probably used to cover all of the walls. The cloister is a noteworthy example of mid-14th century Cistercian architecture from Matteo Gattapona. The upper part of the campanile is from the 13th century. San Bevignate, Church of the Templar. Secular buildings. The Palazzo dei Priori, one of Italy's greatest buildings. The Collegio del Cambio has frescoes by Pietro Perugino, while the Collegio della Mercanzia has a fine later 14th century wooden interior. Galleria Nazionale dell'Umbria, the National Gallery of Umbrian art in Middle Ages and Renaissance. Fontana Maggiore, a medieval fountain designed by Fra Bevignate and sculpted by Nicola and Giovanni Pisano. Chapel of San Severo, which retains a fresco painted by Raphael and Perugino. The Rocca Parolina, a Renaissance fortress of which only a bastion today is remaining. The original design was by Antonio and Aristotile da San Gallo, and included the Porta Marzia, the Tower of Gentile Baglioni's house and a medieval cellar. Orto Botanico dell'Università di Perugia, the university's botanical garden. Antiquities. The Ipogeo dei Polymer, an Etruscan chamber tomb, an Etruscan well. National Museum of Umbrian Archaeology, where one of the longest inscription in Etruscan is conserved, the so-called Sippus Perusinus. Etruscan arch, an Etruscan gate with Roman elements. Modern architecture. Centro Direzionale, an administration civic center owned by the Umbria region. The building was designed by the Pritzker Architecture Prize winner Aldo Rossi. Art. Perugia has had a rich tradition of art and artists. The high Renaissance painter Piero Perugino created some of his masterpieces in the Perugia area. The other high Renaissance master Raphael was also active in Perugia and painted his famous Oddi altar there in 1502–04. Today, the Galleria Nazionale dell'Umbria in Perugia houses a number of masterpieces, including the Madonna with Child and Six Angels, which represents the Renaissance Marian art of Duccio, and the private art collection of Fondazione Casa di Risparmio di Perugia has two separate locations. The Collegio del Cambio is an extremely well-preserved representation of a Renaissance building and houses a magnificent Piero Perugino fresco. The newly reopened Academy of Fine Arts has a small but impressive plaster casts gallery and Perugian paintings and drawings from the 16th century. On culture. The Umbria Jazz Festival is one of the most important venues for jazz in Europe and has been held annually since 1973, usually in July. Sagra Musicale Umbra, the international journalism festival. Euro Chocolate, usually in October each year. Music Fest Perugia, music festival for young talented musicians, usually in the summer. Notable people: Gaio Vibio Treboniano Gallio, Roman Emperor. Bartolo da Sassoferrato, medieval jurist. Balda degli Baldi, medieval guitarist. Baia Michelati, condottiero. Braccio da Montone, condottiero. Matteo da Perugia, composer. Niccolo Piccinino, condottiero. Agostino di Duccio, sculptor. Perugino, painter. Pinturicchio, painter. Giulio III Pope. Galeazzo Alessi, architect. Vincenzo Danti, sculptor and civil engineer. Ignazio Danti, mathematician, cosmographer and bishop. Giovanni Andrea Angelini Bontempi, composer. Baldassare Orsini, architect, academic and art historian. Annibale Mariotti, physician and poet. Francesco Morlacchi, composer. Luisa Spagnoli, entrepreneur. Gerardo Dottori, painter. Gabriele Santini, orchestral conductor. Giuseppe Prezzolini, writer. Aldo Capitini, philosopher. Sandro Penna, poet. Walter Binni, literary critic. Giovanni Mirabassi, jazz musician. Sport. AC. Perugia Calcio is the main football club in the city, playing in Italy's second highest division Serie B. The club plays at the 28,000-seat Stadio Renato Curie, named after a former player who died during a match. From 1983 to 2001, the stadium held 4 matches for the Italy national football team.